always say this thing, we weren't the first to do it, but damn, did we do it good. And you look at Moesha and you look at the Parkers, you look at all of these shows. If anyone compares whatever greatness is happening now and they compare it to what our little show did, I mean, that swells my heart. You know, that feels really good.
My name is Trey Mangum, and this is Shadow and Act's Opening Act. Each week, we sit down with some of your favorite Black creatives in Hollywood to discuss how they made it in the entertainment industry. This week, we're speaking with the one and the only Jill Marie Jones, known for her role as Toni Childs on the iconic Black comedy series Girlfriends. She also stars on Delilah, which is currently airing on OWN. We asked Jill Marie Jones to take us down the path earlier in her career and what she thought about when she initially wanted to become an actress. That one moment when she was like, this is the artist that I want to be.
You know what's crazy is that seems like a very simple question, but it's really not that simple for me because my entire life I always migrated toward art, but I didn't know it was called art. I was a dancer. I wrote poetry. I was doing all these things in poetry, and I was writing short stories and stuff like that. I just didn't know that was called art. I was a gymnast for 5 years. So for me, I just feel like it was a natural progression for me. I don't think there was ever a moment that I said, I want to do that. Or let me take that back, because when I moved out to LA, I moved out to LA for that reason. But that was later in life. That was in my early 20s. But it just felt like that was a part of my path. Yeah.
And in the similar vein as that, when thinking about your first role, doesn't matter if that was, maybe a commercial, a film, television, doesn't matter. For your first role, what was that role? And what do you remember about that you still carry with you to this day?
Oh my goodness, I do. It was called, I believe it was called America's Dream, and it was for HBO, and I was an extra, and it was with Wesley Snipes, Jasmine Guy, Lorraine Toussaint, and it was the first time that I was sitting there on a stage, and there's all the cameras and the lights like above us, and it was just it was just that moment of feeling like I love this and this is where I want to be. And that was my first kiss, to this industry.
Yeah. And, people are always talking about how iconic Girlfriends is. Like I can go on Twitter any moment. I'm sure someone is binging a Girlfriends episode and is giving live play-by-play commentary surrounding it. But now we're just a few months removed from when Netflix, put all of our iconic Black sitcoms to be able to stream. So it's just like years ago watching it all over again. So what was the feeling like seeing so many people either rediscover Girlfriends or some people discovering it for the first time, some people who may be in the minority have never watching some of these shows. What was that like as an actress to see so many people revisit such a big role?
It's I don't even know if I have the words, because it's just a surreal experience, because you really just want to do good work, and I can speak with our cast, like we really just wanted to do great work, but we didn't know what impact we would have on the community and the culture, and it just fills my heart up. I mean, it really does. And by the way, let's be very clear, the fans got it on Netflix. They fought, and God bless them. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's weird because like when we're on Girlfriends, we're kind of in a bubble because we didn't realize like what we were actually doing on the outside of that bubble. But those are my sisters, and Reggie clearly is my brother. But yeah, it swells my heart. I'm so thankful. And it's crazy because on my social media, I tell are, social media fans, friends, that I love them. And I'm sure some of those people think like, no, she doesn't. How does she? I really do, because, as an actor, you have good years and you have not so good years. And those girlfriends fans, man, they have like rocked with us from the very beginning. And it really absolutely means so much to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And speaking of fans, and feeling like you've been in this, I guess, we're in this bubble at the time. Could you even foresee girlfriends making the impact that it did? Because right now, I think about anytime there's kind of like a black woman fronted television series. There's actually Delilah's on now, that's one. And then but as far as like friend groups, you have there's one from Yvette Lee Bowser coming to Stars soon. And then Tracy Oliver has one that's at Amazon. And, there's Insecure. And every time these shows come, the time for one of these new shows to premiere, everyone always points to two different shows, and it being Living Single and Girlfriends as inspirations for all of these new projects. So could you have ever foreseen that, people would be calling, we watch these new shows and be like, okay, this is the Toni, and that's the Joan, and your characters having such an impact, like well beyond the show being on the air?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, shout out to Maahra Hill for her vision. It's incredible to me that I've been a part of something that I'm so proud of it. That just the fact that I've been a part of something that has been such a place of beauty and art and inspiration for people. We didn't know. We really honestly didn't know. And I just feel so proud to be a part of it. I mean, listen, Girlfriends was my third audition in town. I booked the first one. I didn't book the second one. The third one was Girlfriends. And then here I am. I always say that I was in the University of Girlfriends. I learned so much from those amazing actors that are my family. So yeah, I can say I had no idea, but we've collectively said we had no idea.
And again, by being in such a pivotal role in our canon of black television history, after Girlfriends, did you have you ever thought about, wanting to get out of the Toni persona and people like watching on something else be like, oh, that's Toni Childs? Or did you ever feel like there was a point where you wanted people to know you specifically as Jill Marie Jones? Or were you kind of okay with people connecting you with such a big program?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of both because I love Toni. Like I've never ever had anything but love for Girlfriends and that character. But that was one of the big reasons why I decided to move on after my contract was up. I wanted to do other things. And thank goodness I'm good with money. And I was able to say no when I could say no. And yeah, a lot of Toni Childs type of roles came my way. And I kind of wanted to kind of broaden, my IMDb page, so to speak. And just do some different stuff. But listen, Girlfriends was the very beginning for me, and it taught me so much. I would not be sitting in the seat that I sit in if it hadn't been for that. I thank Maahra Hill so much for the opportunity, and I thank those women and Reggie, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thankful and grateful. Absolutely.
That IMDb page thing is so real. When you're looking at your career from things such as Girlfriends to now Delilah, even Monogamy on All Black, formerly UMC. Those are three distinctly different shows, different characters you're playing, and just inherently different projects in this medium. When you're looking at roles that you want to take, shows that you want to do, what draws you to a role for you to be like, okay, this is what I want to be next, the next step in my journey?
Well, I'm the type of actor who clearly loves complex characters. Let's be very clear about it. Um, I am. someone who dives in the deep end and not knowing if the water is shallow or deep, or if it's cold or warm. I just feel like I'm more interested in murky waters and not like the pink pretty bows, in terms of telling a story about a woman in life. But what I will say also too is, like, when I was in Ash versus Evil Dead, Amanda Fisher, I mean, she's such a strong woman, and she's a detective and a Michigan trooper, and she's just a badass, and so much happens to her during the journey. And so I just feel like I'm a woman who just really loves to see what I see out in life portrayed on television. I mean, listen, how many times, nothing's wrong with playing someone's girlfriend or someone's wife. That doesn't really say too much, but that's just kind of, that doesn't really turn me on when I'm reading a script. Thankfully, I've gotten some opportunities. We don't always get those, when one looks like me, but thankfully I've been able to get some. And so I'm very thankful for those.
Yes, and exactly. And speaking of someone representing for people who do look like you, women who do look like
Yes.
you, I think that's super, super important because we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And as someone who has been in an iconic show, been in several different projects, do you think at this point, do you think we've come a long way that we kind of figure out what the issue is when it comes to things such as colorism and racism and representation? Even to this day, I still, I always see on Twitter when people are talking about, even calling out projects that could center darker skinned Black women, because Hollywood kind of has a certain look of what a leading Black actress looks like. And then sometimes they have a specific look for what that supporting character will look like, the character who will be the talk to and things like that, as opposed to that one in that lead role. So as someone who has been a beacon of representation for Black women for so many years, how do you think the industry is working at this point to combat some of the issues that we've had for years and years when it comes to this topic?
Well, let's be very clear. I think we have a long way to go, but I'd be remiss in saying that I don't see a lot of change from where I first started. I remember having, like in casting sessions, like someone's tell me to sass it up a bit, which in my mind, we know what that means. That means more blacker, you know what I mean? Like, and so, yeah, I mean, it's crazy that I've been in this business for as long as I've been, but it's still not that long ago. But I have to say, I really do think that we've come a long way, but we should not become discomfortable here because we have so much more to go. I mean, honestly, but I do see a lot of change. I really do. And I love the fact that, like, you see all these amazing, beautiful women wearing natural hair on television. It's like, so I see all of beautiful change, but we still have some ways to go.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I may have been in college or like shortly after college when there was a scene where Viola Davis in How to Get Away with Murder, she showed her natural hair and when she was taking off a wig, and it's like
Hmm.
it was this major moment because that, especially even kind of when you position like it being on a big show, definitely at the time on a
Yeah.
broadcast network. This is
Yeah.
kind of before that streaming boom came in, but being on a broadcast network and having this and just showing that representation also looks like different things as well, such as hair texture. And I
Right.
think so many times the mainstream kind of gets caught up on, okay, well, we have Black people in this show, so that's checking off this box. And we have Black people, a
Right.
Black person in this role, and that's what we have to do. There's a Black writer in this room, and there's a Black director. But, you have to analyze and be like, what does actual representation look like beyond the means of just saying, okay, it's not all white. There's like
Well,
a little bit of color.
You know what? One of the things that I love about the show Delilah, and I play Tamara Roberts, is Tamara is a lawyer. She works for a corporate firm, the largest firm in Charlotte, North Carolina, corporate law. She has a very nice office on a very high floor with a very nice view. She's doing her thing. Let's be very clear about it. And she's strong. She's somebody you wouldn't want to go up against in court. But then she is vulnerable. She's soft. She's a ride or die friend. She's loyal. She's like all these things because as women, as people, as humans, we're not one dimensional. As Black people, we're not one dimensional. Caucasian people aren't one dimensional. Across the board, people aren't one dimensional, right? And so oftentimes, I can't speak for every actress, but oftentimes with Black actresses, you'll get a role and she's strong. Woo, she's strong at work. She's strong at home. She's strong with the kids. She's strong at every person she meets at the grocery store. She's just strong, 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 you know, and that's just not who we are as humans, you know. So one of the many reasons that I love Tamara so much is because there's just so many colors that make up who we are as humans. And I get to play around with that.
This week's Black Entertainment Trivia Fact. Which Law & Order series did Viola Davis not guest star in? Did she not appear on Law & Order Special Victims Unit, Law & Order Criminal Intent, or the original Law & Order series? Find out the answer next week on ShadowAct.com. First of all, I just love that Delilah is set in North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina and I lived in Charlotte for several years. So I love that it is set in the Queen City. That just like, you know, makes my heart smile. But speaking about Delilah, I remember when it was first announced, we didn't know a lot of details about it. We just knew that it was from the creator of Greenleaf. And, you know, Greenleaf had come off as an uber successful run on television. And then before we actually knew what Delilah was, there were like rumors online about, oh, this is related to Greenleaf. It's a spinoff. And that's why the lead character's name is Delilah. They're doing some biblical tie-ins. And then it comes out to like, no, it's a completely different show on its own based in Charlotte around this woman and her circle. And I want to know what drew you specifically to Delilah and how has Delilah been different than any other show you've been a part of and any other characters that you've portrayed before?
Well, first of all, the writing was really incredible. And just to piggyback on what I said before is I'm definitely an actor who loves complex characters, and Tamara is definitely one of those. And then, of course, the Queen, Oprah Winfrey, come on. I mean, yeah, but also too, I'll be honest, I'm also too an actor that I like to start each project like it's a blank piece of paper. I try not to compare characters. I try not to judge characters because I feel like that's not a good thing. Even if you're, God forbid, playing a serial killer or whatever, and I have played a serial killer before, but even if you are doing that type of character, I mean, that character was someone's child. That was a baby that was laughing and giggly and all that stuff at some point. So you try to find the humanity of, you know, of a character. So I really try not to judge the character. Sometimes it's harder, you know, than other characters, but I really do try to start with a blank piece of paper and try not to compare. But I think this character is probably the closest that I've ever played to someone's eyeball that might look a little like Toni Childs. And it's her, I think it's her boldness, the dynamics of her fashion sense, of course. Clearly she's Tamara's, her fashion is nice. But if you really understood the Toni Childs, if you really followed Girlfriends, you would know that Toni, most of the things, well, let's just say a lot of things that Toni did, it stemmed from an insecure place. Codependency, she was definitely codependent with Joan. I would like to think that today, if we were to see that film or see that, you know, limited series or what have you, that, you know, with her baby Morgan, like she's grown and evolved, you know, still giving that same Toni-esque that she does. But I would love to see her, you know, to have grown. But with Tamara is really unapologetically who she is. Like, I believe that Tamara knew who she was, like, from day one, and she makes no apologies for it. She knows exactly the firm that she works for. She worked very hard to get that office on that high floor. And there's just something really awesome about having no fear, you know? I mean, I didn't have that. I still don't really 100% have that. You know, I just jump in the water and I hope I swim sometimes, you know, like, I mean, but Tamara, she's one of those fearless women. So, and Toni is also too fearless in a certain kind of way too. But if you really dig deep, you'll see that you know, Toni was an insecure woman, and I love her, but she, you know.
And thinking about noticing these things about Toni in retrospect, and definitely there's no doubt about that Maahra Hill created something fantastic. Even at the time, Girlfriends was probably pretty revolutionary in its depiction of black women on screen. But in a general sense, do you think the way that black women and black people in general have been able to be portrayed on screen, how do you think that's changed between Girlfriends and Delilah?
Ooh, I mean, that's a good question. I always say this thing, we weren't the first to do it, but damn, did we do it good. I always say that because I'm so proud of Girlfriends. But I look at Living Single. I look at all, you know, I get these beautiful people tag me and things, and it's just so lovely to see just all these amazing women that look like me before our time there that were doing great things. And you look at Moesha and you look at the Parkers, you look at all of these shows. So I don't really know the answer to that question, but I know it looks really great to see if anyone says compares whatever greatness is happening now and they compare it to what our little show did. I mean, that it swells my heart. You know, that feels really good. Again, I mean, we were just trying to do good work and we were just so happy to be on TV in a lot of ways. I mean, it broke all of our careers. Some people it worked a little bit before others, but it broke all of our careers, and we're just so thankful and grateful for it. But I geeked out when I heard that we were in the African American Museum in DC. I was like, what? Like, that was so, I mean, you kind of feel like not worthy in a way, or at least I felt that way. Because it's like, oh my God, it's so big and such a, I don't know, it just takes your breath away. And I thought it was an exhibit, and to know that it's still there, which is like incredible to me. I just feel very honored to be a part of something like that.
If you don't know anything else, you know that people will be lobbying for this wrap up movie, this limited series. They will be doing that for years to come. You know, anytime that we report on news about you or any of your other co stars, Maahra has that Netflix pack now. Everyone is like, you know, we need the Girlfriends wrap up. We need a limited series. We need something. So that just goes to show not too many shows. 'Cause, you know, a lot of people are kind of tired of reboots and revivals, anything of that order. But you know, say something about Girlfriends, and everyone is like, you know, like that fatigue does not apply to Girlfriends. People are like, you know, anything. We need something. So I think that says a lot to the huge cultural impact that the show had over time.
Again, we were like in a bubble, and we had no idea. And it was so beautiful to hear from people, even to this day, to say, I never, even as simple as, I never thought I could wear red lipstick until I saw you wear red lipstick. I never thought, like, with my skin being this shade of brown, that I could wear red lipstick. And then I saw you, or that my lips were so big I didn't think I could wear red lipstick. And then, like, you never know the impact that you're making. And I'm just so proud of those women, and Reggie, of course. Yeah, it's like a family there. And I'm just so happy that we were able to just put a touch on the culture, just a little sprinkle, you know, of our love and joy.
And on things that you probably could have never saw coming was that you would be filming a TV show during a global pandemic, while everything with the industry is changing. Even just the fact that we're even speaking right now virtually kind of shows this direction that we've had to pivot to. But I can only imagine how that is doing Zoom table reads and going to set, and you have to, before you're in the set, seeing your co-stars and all the get up and stuff and masks and everything. So what could you tell us about that experience of, because I know Delilah was probably one of the, whether the first in the pack or kind of middle of the pack of shows that were in production over this past year. What was that experience like as an actress? I'm sure it's like nothing you would have thought about that would have came about in your career.
I'll be honest, I was really nervous because I mean, if I haven't seen you on Zoom or on FaceTime or at work, I haven't seen a friend since March 2020 in person. That was my first, I worked after Delilah, but that was my first job in quarant, like in a COVID society, let's just say. So I was nervous, but I will tell you, they had it down. Shout out to Warner Brothers. Shout out to OWN. I mean, we were tested 4 times a week. I felt completely safe. But what sucked is that when I am with a production, definitely when I'm on location, I am so with my crew. And I mean, on the weekends, we're watching games at a bar. We're like, I'm hanging out with the crew, and I wasn't able to do that stuff. You see somebody, you want to hug them, and you're not able to hug them and say hello. So it was really strange. But I felt like we made beautiful lemonade out of the lemons that we were given, and we made it work. But yeah, it was different. You know, I'll be honest. I'm sure the whole world would say this as well. I'll be glad when this is over so we can hug again.
Yes, I just need everyone to do what they need to do so we can get over this hurdle. I remember I was going to a film festival around the right before the pandemic hit. It was South by Southwest, and I just thought it'll be rescheduled in the fall and things will go back to normal. The fall happened, things were not normal, and now we're heading toward the
Yeah.
summer. We're heading toward the summer again. It's been a year since that happened, but I think it is going to show how the industry can bounce back, and hopefully better than before. We've been able to, unfortunately, since the events of last summer with the Black Lives Matter protests and the death of George Floyd, and how that all impacted Hollywood. And it's so unfortunate that it took something like that to happen for trickle down change to even affect things like Hollywood, and people to realize, oh, this is wrong, or people to realize, oh, I feel comfortable with saying this experience that happened to me on this set. It's unfortunate, but I think after once we come out of all of this, hopefully it'll be something that looks better than it did before.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I really am. And there was a time where I was like, whoo, where's the light at this end of this tunnel? Like, whoo. But I'm really optimistic. And yeah, it's been on the internet has been a saving grace, I have to say. Like there's things that aren't so nice, people, however you feel about it. But I really do think it kept people connected.
And Delilah is, I guess, like the latest chapter in your story, which is still being written. But what is the most valuable lesson that you think you have learned in the industry and Hollywood while being on this journey as a whole?
That I'm worthy, I think, that I deserve, that I'm talented. I work hard, I show up, and I can get my flowers now.
Absolutely, I love it. I love it. We
Yeah,
need
I
to, we
mean,
need to give the people who deserve, especially considering everything we've been through this year. I think that's even more to say. Give everyone their due right now.
yeah, I mean, listen, and that's not me being like, arrogant or any kind of way, but I think there's a lot of times that you see people in front of the camera, whether it be a musician or an actor or whomever, and you just assume that they're just the most confident, of people. But I mean, you never really know how they're feeling inside. And I feel like at 46 years old, I feel the sexiest I've ever felt. I feel stronger than I've ever felt. I feel worthy. I feel confident. I feel deserving. I feel all those amazing things. So I'm just really happy, loving the skin that I'm in.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Opening Act with Jill Marie Jones. You can watch this interview in full, as well as catch other exclusive content on lunchtable.com. Create an account and watch other Shy Don't Act content, such as Reel It Back and Shy Don't Act Live. You can subscribe to Opening Act wherever you download podcasts. Be sure to leave us a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Until next time.